nuclear weapons disposal facility covers the whole island. I'll instruct you by codec after you reach your target.
Anyone going with me?
As always, this is a one-man sneaking mission.
Weapons and equipment.
Tactical, espionage, action. These were the words emblazoned on TVs, posters, and PlayStation 1 CD cases when Metal Gear Solid hit store shelves in 1998. That game, while not the first entry in the series, launched Metal Gear into the hearts and minds of gamers all over the world, and made its creator, Hideo Kojima, a creative force to be reckoned with. It hurts me to admit it, but that was a long time ago. On September 3rd, 2023, 25 years will have passed since the game's launch, and so much has happened since then. Not the least of which is Kojima being forcefully separated from the very franchise he created. So, as a fan of Metal Gear from the very beginning, I'll be going back to reanalyze and relive these awesome stories in this two-part series, the Metal Gear Saga. Whether you're also a lifelong fan, fairly new to the franchise, or somehow completely unaware of the many adventures of Solid Snake and his lineage, I hope you'll join me in this adventure. But try to stay quiet, these are stealth games after all. Rather than talk more about the original Metal Gear Solid from 1998, which was absolutely a revolution in its time, I'll be covering the remake, Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes, from 2004. This game was and remains something of an anomaly for the franchise because it's essentially a mainline Metal Gear game that wasn't created directly by Hideo Kojima and his studio, Kojima Productions. Instead, it was developed by Dennis Dielec's studio, Silicon Knights, under the supervision of Kojima and, get this, Mario creator Shigeru Miyamoto. Miyamoto's involvement came as a result of the game being developed exclusively for the GameCube, another anomaly for a series that has been mostly confined to PlayStation consoles. Being remade a handful of years later on much stronger hardware afforded Silicon Knights the ability to give the classic game a much needed facelift, with way better graphics. Which is something I really enjoyed about the Twin Snakes. It looked closer to Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty, and also featured mechanics from that game which had been released a few years before. Despite all the improvements made in the Twin Snakes, the core story remains the same as the original game. A terrorist organization called Foxhound, comprised of genetically enhanced genome soldiers, takes over an Alaskan island called Shadow Moses, where the nuclear missile launching mech Metal Gear Rex is stored. Foxhound threatens to use the Metal Gear against the US government unless they return the remains of the legendary soldier Big Boss to them along with $1 billion ransom. As you can probably imagine, the government will do anything to get out of paying anything, including convincing former spy Solid Snake out of retirement to get the situation under control. Along the way, Snake reconnects with his handler, Roy Campbell, and other good guys including Meryl Silverberg, data analyst, save coordinator, Mei Ling, weeb/creator of Metal Gear Rex, Hal Emmerich, and pantsoiler Johnny Sasaki. Additionally, a phantom of Solid Snake's past presents himself, first as an enemy and later as an ally in the form of Cyborg Ninja. The geneticist Naomi Hunter is also counted among their ranks, but she created and sneakily injected Solid Snake with a virus called Foxdie that kills specific targets when he gets close to them, and is designed to kill Snake too as retribution for leaving her adopted brother Frank Jaeger near death in a previous game. With the help of these characters, Solid Snake takes on the 6 members of Foxhound: Psycho Mantis, Sniper Wolf, Vulcan Raven, Decoy Octopus, Revolver Ocelot, and their leader, Liquid Snake. Ocelot gets his hand sliced off by the Cyborg Ninja, which is a plot point that becomes relevant later in the series. In this game, it is revealed that Solid Snake, Liquid Snake, and their brother Solidus are the products of Les Enfants Terribles, a project with the goal of recreating the perfect soldier Big Boss via cloning. Even worse, Solidus is also the President of the United States, known as George Sears, and he was in on the Shadow Moses incident from the beginning. Metal Gear Solid, and by extension the Twin Snakes, have action, drama, comedy, and no shortage of plot twists, all wrapped up in one awesome package. By the time the climactic battle on top of the Metal Gear concluded and the credits rolled, many gamers were eager to dive into another Solid Snake adventure. The second installment of the Metal Gear Solid series first arrived in November 2001 with Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty. This game had a bit of a tumultuous development and was even almost cancelled due to the events of 9/11 and the similarity parts of the game had to it. Thankfully though, Kojima was spurred on by Sony Computer Entertainment's president at the time, Ken Kutaragi, and Konami's own founder, Kajimasa Kazuki, to go through with the game's release. And thank goodness they did, because Metal Gear Solid 2 is one of the most interesting and surprising video games of all time. I had pre-ordered the game long before its release because I was so excited to step back into the combat boots of Solid Snake. But Metal Gear Solid 2 pulls a fast one on its players. The old switcheroo, if you will. You're only in control of Solid Snake for a small portion of the game, and then you switch to a new protagonist named Raiden.
The terrorists call themselves Sons of Liberty.
Sons of Liberty?
The name of their leader is Solid Snake.
The hero of Shadow Moses? So that's why you changed my code name.
This shocked me at first, but I grew to like Raiden pretty quickly, and the game itself is very good, and that intro music, wow, I still get goosebumps when I hear it.
Freeze! Hands over your head, now!
Metal Gear Solid 2 begins with Solid Snake attempting to intercept a tanker that is carrying a new Metal Gear Ray. Snake fights a Russian soldier named Olga Gerlokovich. The tanker is hijacked, and Ray is stolen by Ocelot, who is possessed by Liquid Snake. Yes, possessed. Notice he has two hands here, and one of them was sliced off in the last game. Somehow, Snake gets blamed for stealing Metal Gear Ray and goes into hiding. Several years later, we meet a new Foxhound agent named Raiden, who is assigned to rescue hostages being held by the terrorist group Sons of Liberty at the Big Shell plant. The leader of Sons of Liberty claims to be Solid Snake, but it's actually Solidus Snake, and Raiden meets and teams up with the real Solid Snake, who introduces himself as Pliskin. This is a reference to Snake Plissken from John Carpenter's Escape from New York, the character on which Solid Snake is based on. Through a mind-bending series of events, it is revealed that the entire Big Show incident was fabricated by an AI called the Patriots, in order to reenact the events of Shadow Moses and create a soldier as good as Solid Snake. The Patriots then order Raiden to kill Solidus, or they will murder his family. And in an ensuing fight, Solidus reveals that he is Raiden's foster father.
Jack, my son.
Raiden goes through with killing Solidus, but is blinded with rage from being manipulated by the Patriots. He makes it his life mission to take them down.
Oh, no, not the beast! Not the beast! Ah!
3 years after Sons of the Patriots blew our minds, Metal Gear fans were given something entirely new and different with 2004's Metal Gear Solid 3: Snake Eater. This game is just incredible. Even in a series full of generation-defining games, Snake Eater stands out for its graphics, sound, and gameplay design in ways that even some modern games are trying to catch up to. If it isn't obvious, this one's probably my favorite. The soundtrack alone puts it in most people's top 5. Snake Eater serves as a prequel to the series so far, taking place in the year 1963. It begins with an agent named Naked Snake being dropped into the wilderness of Soviet Russia to rescue a weapons designer named Dr. Sokolov and disable or destroy a proto-Metal Gear called the Shagohod. This operation is called the Virtuous Mission, and Naked Snake's handler is Major Zero. Things quickly take a turn when Naked Snake is stopped in his tracks by his mentor, the Boss, who seems to have defected to Russia to help them obtain nuclear weapons that could put America and the entire world in danger. A massive, lightning-wielding Ivan Drago-esque villain named Colonel Volgin uses a nuke on a Russian research facility. A year later, in 1964, Snake goes back to kill the Boss and take the Shagohod on a new mission, Operation Snake Eater. In the midst of action-packed set pieces, inventive CQC fighting mechanics, and new survival gameplay that requires players to manually tend to wounds and feed Naked Snake to fend off hunger, we meet a young ocelot and a Chinese People's Liberation Army spy named Eva. Unfortunately, Snake also makes a terrible discovery that shakes him to his core. The Boss hadn't defected. She was loyal to the US the entire time and was working undercover. It turns out America was blamed for the nuclear attack on Russian soil, so they pinned the blame on the Boss and ordered Snake to kill her, to to clear the air. After a tragic battle, Naked Snake kills the boss, and they share a tearful goodbye.
Snake, you're a wonderful man. Kill me. Kill me now. Do it.
Naked Snake returns to America, where he's decorated and given the new title of Big Boss. However, he is furious at what they did to his mentor, and leaves the Fox unit along with his handler, Major Zero.
You know, we could use an infiltration unit like Fox in the army. Someone like him to handle our top secret sneaking missions for us. A man...
4 years later, in 2008, lots of things were changing. The PS2 had been replaced by the much more powerful PS3, and the kinds of games we were seeing were unlike anything that had come before. Heavenly Sword, Resistance, Fall of Man, Assassin's Creed, Sonic the Hedgehog. Okay, maybe not the last one. That was bad. But all of these games were outshined by the release of what many considered to be Hideo Kojima's magnum opus, the game that would bring the Metal Gear Solid series to a close. Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriots. And in many ways, it really was the culmination of all of the pieces he had spent 10 years setting up. In Metal Gear Solid 4, Solid Snake is beginning to feel the effects of the Fox Die virus that Naomi injected him with at the beginning of Metal Gear Solid 1, and is projected to only have a year left to live. Add that to the accelerated aging he's experiencing due to the nature of the cloning project that brought him into existence, and we have a new version of our hero dubbed Old Snake. It's sad to see heroes get old, and Metal Gear Solid 4 has plenty of scenes of Old Snake battling his quickly deteriorating body. This one is tied with Metal Gear Solid 3 for me. It came out during my college years, and despite not having much money, I just had to get the limited edition version of this game for my collection. Guns of the Patriots begins in a world overrun by war. But, in Old Snake's own words, war has changed. It has become a business, with privatized militaries waging war against each other, with nanomachine-enhanced soldiers for profit, while mobile arms dealers named Drebin make their money selling it to all sides.
Cigars, father's favorite. What do you say? Care for one last smoke? You think you're big boss now?
Some of the largest PMC groups, and an all-female mercenary group called the Beauty and the Beast unit, are led by Liquid Ocelot, a version of Ocelot who has completely succumbed to Liquid Snake's consciousness. Liquid Ocelot obviously poses a great threat, so Old Snake is sent to assassinate him. His first attempt fails, but he meets up with Naomi Hunter again, who is being held hostage by Liquid. She reveals Liquid's plan to recover the remains of Big Boss and uses DNA to gain access to the Master Patriot AI, which will allow him to control every nanomachine in the world. Additionally, Naomi tells Snake that Fox Die is mutating in a way that will eventually cause it to begin killing people around him at random and could even become a worldwide pandemic. While Snake continues his mission, a cybernetically enhanced Raiden joins the fight along with Otacon and Sunny, the daughter of Olga Gurlukovich from Metal Gear Solid 2, who has been more or less adopted by Otacon. There are insane Metal Gear battles, returns to old stomping grounds complete with flashback scenes, and some of the most heart-wrenching scenes in video game history. Before you reach the end of Metal Gear Solid 4, seriously, mention the microwave hallway to any Metal Gear fan and see if they don't burst into tears. But in the end, the Patriots are defeated. The Fox Die pandemic is delayed, and old Snake gets a chance to meet his father, Big Boss, who ties up all of the narrative loose ends before dying in Snake's arms. It turns out everything that happened throughout the series was Big Boss and Major Zero, attempting to follow the boss's dream for the world, but they lost their way in the process. She wanted the world to be unified and united. The Big Boss tried to accomplish that through force and manipulation, while Major Zero left an AI in charge that tried to take over the world. But what she really wanted was to just leave the world alone. That brings us to the end of the Metal Gear Saga Part 1. Thank you for sticking around, and Part 2 will be coming out later. The Phantom Pain has a lot of ground to cover, so I'm not sure if I want to dedicate to one video or spread it to other games I haven't covered yet. So in the meantime, I'll be doing 1 or 2 videos before coming back to the Metal Gear Saga Part 2. Before you leave, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and let me know in the comments which is your favorite Metal Gear game is. So we'll see you next time, and remember, gaming is your road to adventure. Solid Mike out.